Welcome to the Gold Standard here on the 440 Sports Network. I am Braden Gall. You can follow me on the internet at Braden Gall everywhere. There is the internet. Emma Lingan, good morning. Good afternoon, I should say. How
Good
are you?
day.
Good day, ma'am.
I am well, thank you.
Oh, it's good to talk to you. It's good to see you. We are here, of course, if you are on the YouTube page and the YouTube page. Howdy to Kevin and Trevor and Nate. Good to see all you guys. If you have questions about the lineup, I want you guys to ask those. We want to try to kind of have a roundabout conversation. Josh, good to see you as well. Brad, look at all you guys jumping into the comments. Good to see you. We're going to talk development camp. Emma, you were there on Saturday. So we're going to talk development camp. We're going to talk some of the opportunities for some of these guys to make the roster. What are some of the combinations potentially of the lineup moving forward? We had Perbix spoke, the new 6'4" defenseman as well. I got Nick Hague, Nicholas Hague, Nick Perbix, Nicholas Hague will speak tomorrow, I believe, on the 10th. So we're not going to have anything there. Yes, Nate, Nash Severe Weather team. That's right. That's what this hat is, of course, Nashville Severe Weather. So shout out to my guys, to Dave and Will and the intern as well, Andrew, all you guys, friends of the pod, as it were. So lots of stuff to get to today, of course. And so I want to talk lineups and I want to talk development camp, but also I want to talk about a birthday party coming up. And no, not my 5th annual 39th birthday party that happened over the weekend. It's my 5th 39th birthday, Emma. That I've had.
Happy 39th.
Yeah, that's right. That's my 5th one. Sinkers Beverages is having a 40th birthday party because they're 1 year older than me, technically. Sinkers Beverages is having a 40th birthday party, 4-time liquor store of the year, serving the community in East Nashville. They are having a birthday party at Basement East coming up on August 9th on a Saturday. Tickets are $10. BasementEast.com is the website. Please go buy a ticket. All the money goes to a charity. So Basement East and Sinkers not making the money off this. You're going to have music, of course, Basement East. You're going to have great drinks, of course, Sinkers. You're going to have food. You're going to be entered into win a bunch of prizes. There's going to be a raffle giveaway to win a trip on a barrel pick. Emma, have you ever been on a barrel pick before? What do you think? What do you think happens on a barrel pick? Go.
So isn't it some kind of like you concoct your own bourbon or whiskey or something? I don't know. Can you tell I don't drink dark liquor?
Don't think you concoct anything.
Not concoct, but it's like, don't you like pick the notes and the flavors that you want in it? Am I kind of close?
Yeah, I mean, you can talk like a pretentious asshole about the notes and the flavors if you want to. That is possible.
Thank you.
No, we did this for a football show last summer, I think. Kevin says embrace getting older. I am. I'm fine getting older. My wife and I both are way happier in getting middle-aged. There's certain things I wish I could do still, like with my knees and everything, but like I like getting older. It's fun. I'm embracing it. It's totally fine. Going to the barrel patch and picking barrels, Eddie says. Here's what happened. We had a giveaway on a football show I think it was 2 summers ago. We all piled into like one of these really cool the short like high-end buses, right? They have like maybe 8 rows of seats, right? And it's air conditioned. You got windows, like you got seat belts. Like it's not like a school bus or whatever, but it's one of those like buses you might see at the airport, like one of those things. Like it's pretty nice. We all piled in. They had a cooler full of things. We left from Sinkers in East Nashville, drove up to Elizabethton, which is about an hour and a half, 2 hours, maybe less. They stopped. We had lunch on Sinkers. We went to the Wild Turkey Distillery. We got to tour the Rick House. We tasted 6 different types of bourbon. All had been barreled like in the same month, 10 years earlier. So like same barrel, same recipe, almost identical amount of time, and all 6 tasted totally differently based on where they were placed in the Rick House, which is such cool science if you like bourbon. We got to try all 6. We narrowed it down to 2. We tried both of them. We had a bunch of those adjectives that you're talking about. We talked about a bunch of those adjectives. We used a bunch of like, oh, this is earthy. Oh, this has some peach notes. This has a spicy front end, that kind of stuff. And we were picking out a Russell's Reserve. It then became the barrel that Sinkers got, and no other liquor store in the country got that barrel. We got to try it. I actually might I might have it over here somewhere, but there's a Russell's 10-year that you could have gotten at about 4 months later at Sinkers that was just that barrel that we got to go pick. It is one of the coolest experiences I've ever had. I think it's the best like sports radio media podcast giveaway that we've ever done in my 20 plus years career. And we're doing it again coming up on August 9th. So a couple people are going to be raffled off. You're going to get an opportunity to go on a trip like that up to Kentucky, courtesy of Sinkers Beverages. It's going to be a ton of fun. You want to come down. Come down to Basement East, music, food, booze, giveaways, but that raffle is clutch. That was one of the coolest things I've ever done. I hope you all come down and hang out. Shotgun Willie's Barbecue, of course, as well. The best brisket in the city, open right now, Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., Wednesday through Sunday. Check out Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. All right, Emma, you want to talk Nick Perbix first? And basically, I stop pucks. I love Nashville. I'm moving here with my fiance. I learned a lot from all the veterans in Tampa, and I stopped pucks. That's what I heard at this press conference.
Yeah, I one of the other media members, I was not able to attend the press conference in person, but I watched the video of it afterwards. One of the media members who was there gave me a warning ahead of time, though, that Perbix was, and I quote, Tommy Novakian in his responses and his conversational skills, which was pretty accurate, to be honest.
Novakian.
Tommy Novakian, just very a man of few words, and that's okay. We just didn't, what is it like? Why use more words when few words do same thing or something like that? Whatever the saying is.
We have never had this conversation because I never really thought it appropriate, but I guess we could do it real quickly now that he's not on the team anymore. I always thought every time I ever saw Tommy Novak, he looked like a thinner, smaller, professional, athletic version of John Belushi. Like he just looked like he was living hard all the time. And that's not me reporting. I have no evidence of that. I don't actually know, but it just looked like he was John Belushi all the time. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on this. John Belushi, by the way, is a comedian for you young folks.
Yeah, Tommy Novak just so for a while when he first got to the Preds, he was one of the only single guys on the team. And to me, that was immediately evident in the way that he dressed himself outside of hockey, because it's no, if you had a significant other, she would not let you leave the house like that.
John Belushi. He never looked clean shaved. Like he never looked like he had a clean cut beard line. Like even never looked like 5-day-old stubble every day.
All of his clothes were at least 2 sizes too big, and it just it didn't look good.
That's popular these days, right? With the kids under 30? No,
I mean not for a suit.
I hear you. Although I think I've seen Saros wearing the double-breasted recently. Like the double-breasted's coming back, right? That's a big deal.
That's fine, but it fits him. Novak looked like all these guys, especially when you're walking in next to, and this isn't a fair comparison, but you're walking in next to Matt Duchene in his custom tailored new suit for every game. And then you're Tommy Novak, who clearly just bought something off the sale rack at Men's Warehouse that's probably in the wrong size, but hey, it works.
You don't want to swing too far the other direction, though, where you care more about your custom tailored suit than you do your penalty killing skills.
No, but care a little bit.
No, I hear you. There's a balancing act in the middle.
Yeah. So, but then and at first I blamed that on the fact that he was single, but then by the end of his time with Nashville, he had a girlfriend, and I'm like, she still lets you leave the house like that?
It depends on what kind of phase of dating you're in there. And again, fair. Not like I had plenty. There's plenty of girls I dated before my wife that did not help me become more put together. That's because I was. That's because I was looking for that at the time.
Right. And I don't think they lived together at the time, so there's that element too.
Jeff says he always looked like he fell out of a slowly moving car. That's good. I just thought and again, it's not that he actually was hungover or disheveled or pale or he just always looked like John Belushi, and I'm like, God, you look like you were up on Saturday Night Live last night going pretty hard. I don't know. That's what it looked like.
Tommy Novak, if you saw him on the street and didn't know who he was, you would never guess that he was an NHL player.
Exactly
And
right.
I knew someone who used to play with Novak, like junior or USHL. I forget like what level, but when they were younger, they played together. Who described Novak to me, and I found this to be very accurate. That he said like he just only cares about hockey and literally nothing else. And it's like, well, that's evident in the way that he, dresses himself. But it's like, that's it. He just doesn't care about anything, and not in like an asshole kind of way. It's just.
Do you think Brady Martin could live pretty much most of his life in either a hockey rink or a farm and be fine with that? Like literally, those are the only two places he goes: his farm and the hockey rink. Do you think he's got some of that? Or
Probably.
do you think? Okay, we'll get to
but
the
depth. He also like has a little bit more personality and speaking skills.
Yeah, Riker's filthy. Hockey over hygiene, says Kevin. I agree. I don't need you to care about all the other stuff. I do need you to care about hockey 100%. So there's that.
Speaking of hygiene, and this is also probably inappropriate, but less so now that he's not on the team. But you spend enough time around these guys, and each one of them, they kind of have a certain aroma to them. Their BO is
I did
like
not
very,
expect you to go that direction.
No, Tommy Novak is one of the smelliest dudes I have.
That's also
been around.
That's probably also part of it. It's like, man, like I just feel like you rolled out of bed and came here.
Like, look, they all smell. They've all been sweating,
Sure.
whatever. But it's like some a little bit more than others.
Who doesn't wash their hands? That's what I want after going to the bathroom. That's what I want to know.
Yeah, I would like to know that too. Probably most of them, unfortunately.
Yeah. What are you gonna do? All right. Anyway, Nick Perbix, he's gonna stop pucks.
Yeah.
I don't know how he. By the way, to the anti-Tom Perbix, very handsomely coiffed. He had the hair all going. He was put together well. So
does have some good hair.
Got the hair, even if it's red, which means no soul, but it's fine. Look, I like the guy focusing on defense and coming in and making it very clear. I learned from Victor Hedman. I learned from Ryan McDonough, and my job is to keep the puck out of the net. I know that we joked about it and how he delivered the message, but like I'm totally fine with that message being delivered because right now they need to. They've got to stop pucks from going in the net, and they've got to help UC Sorrow. So that's why he's been brought in. I like to hear that. We'll see what Haig has to say. Not a whole lot more other than this long side meandering conversation about Tommy Novak's general appearance and smelliness. But otherwise, welcome to town, Nick Perbix. Okay, so let's get to Dev Camp here before we get to lineup questions. And I want you guys to chime in on combinations that you might want to see. So we'll do that in a little while. If you missed it, Gover and I had a very long conversation where we went through almost every possibility of both offense and defense on Lower Broad Hockey. So make sure you check that out. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Dev Camp, I want to know, I guess, first and foremost, did the best players look like the best players? I think that's the most important thing. Brady Martin, Matthew Wood, Tanner Molendyk, Andrew Gibson, Igor Surin. Like, I'm sure there's other ones, but like the 4 or 5 or 6 who are considered the best prospects in the farm system, did they look like the best prospects in the farm system?
Yes. I think so. A few different notes there. Number one, Matthew Wood was there. He looked better than everyone else who was there, which you want. You want that for someone who's had some time in the NHL. Do I think he'll start the season on the NHL roster? Probably not, but he was clearly like another level above, which is good. You want to see that. Igor Surin got bigger. He looks bigger. And it was funny because we talked to him afterwards. Just a delight to talk to. Just
Russians are fun, man. Russians are fun.
He is delightful. But we asked him about it, trying to keep it simple because his English, I do think his English has improved a little bit, but it was very noticeable. Like he looked bigger, he had more muscular. And so we asked him about it and he was surprised. He was like, "You guys think I look big and strong?" And we're like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Oh, well, then you haven't seen the guys I play against in Russia. And so while it was a funny moment, at the same time, I do think it's indicative of the fact that he has spent the last year playing against men in Russia, and that has done him a lot of good as far as preparing him for, the NHL, not this coming season, but potentially the season after. And so he looked bigger and stronger. Molendyk and Gibson both looked like they had put on some muscle weight. Gibson especially. I will say I've always been a fan of Andrew Gibson, but like this camp in particular,
Yeah.
really, really impressive.
Couple goals, right, on Saturday?
He had one on Saturday that was kind of like he cleaned up a rebound, but then he in the 3-on-3 tournament, he scored like 3 goals.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Matthew Wood had one as well on a he had a pass that didn't really go through, but then he kind of chased it and figured it out and buried it top shelf.
So I will say, don't sleep on Andrew Gibson. I know all the talk is about Molendyk and how he is going to be in the NHL at some point this year, probably, which he still very well may be. But I wouldn't count Gibson out of that conversation either, because he looked really good. He looks like he's gotten bigger, and he is a right shot defenseman, which are a hot commodity right about now, especially in the Nashville Predators organization. So,
I mean, we'll get to this, but I don't think it's the short-term answer. But I think long-term, whatever that may mean, 2 years, let's say. I mean, I think your Molendyk-Gibson pairing has always been. They've always looked like they should come up together and learn together and play at the AHL together this year, and then, like that's what it's always looked like. The plan has been, at least, for the two of them to kind of come up through the ranks together.
Yeah. And I think that it looks good now. Like they look a lot more like they're on the same level right now. It seemed like maybe last year Gibson was just a hair behind where Molendyk was developmentally. Now it seems like they're more even and sort of on that right track to come up together. One thing I will say, and I don't know that it's necessarily, it could mean absolutely nothing. I don't like to make, sweeping conclusions after things like this, but one guy who I would say was pretty invisible, like he wasn't egregiously bad, but I would have expected to see more from him, was David Edstrom, former first round pick they got from the Askarov trade. Again, it could mean absolutely nothing. I'm not, a lot of these guys are, they're coming in, this is their first time skating in a while, they're a little rusty. It's fine. So I wouldn't say like, oh my God, panic, David Edstrom's bad. But he was one that I would say like, he was kind of invisible to me this week.
You have not mentioned the one that gets the most conversation, good and bad, and that is the number 5 overall pick.
Oh, well, Brady Martin. Yeah. I mean, Brady Martin looked really, really good. I thought that we were having a separate Brady Martin conversation.
Oh, okay. Let's have a separate Brady Martin conversation then. He says a lot harder than I expected, which I think is it. And this is honestly, this is interesting from the Surin conversation, because Surin talked a lot about how he has had no breaks really at all. And I do think playing in the KHL against grown adult Russians who have just they have a different approach to life. They have a different approach to hockey. It is a sort of like bull in a china shop kind of just style of the game anyway. It's a bigger piece of ice. It is probably the 3rd best league. But I think for a player like Surin, who plays the game the way he does, I think it's actually more beneficial maybe to be in the KHL than it might be to the AHL. You might learn more skill and nuance and maybe a little bit more like more technique that's going to be taught to you by the Predators coaching staff, like the way that the organization wants you to do it. But I think for a kid his age or a prospect his age to be playing against guys who are just like, you better be on it every shift in the KHL, because they will come after you. Like it's just big, physical, fast, burly hockey. And I think that's really beneficial. I think with Martin saying, look, he had some really positive. He called Riker Lee filthy, so that was good to see. If you're evaluating Riker Lee through all of this, which you haven't mentioned, but Brady Martin, I think what you wanted him to be is to just look like he belongs already at his age. Look, he talked about trying to win a spot in camp coming up, in the fall. I hope that you saw what you wanted to see out of him first, and then we can kind of get into the longer conversation about where he might end up or can he win the job or whatever. So hopefully he looked, and I didn't have a chance to go, obviously, but I hope he looked like he was the 5th overall pick.
He did. He did. I think, and this is something that we have talked about a lot, so we don't need to rehash all of it. But I mean, I do understand kind of the whiplash from the fan base when he was the 5th overall pick. And people, but now I can say with confidence after watching him this week, this was not just a grit and character pick by Barry Trotz. Like, it wasn't like that. I think all the people who were saying, oh, they went with the culture pick over the skill pick. No, you can have both. And Brady Martin is both. And I think people are losing sight of that, or they had been losing sight of that. The more time I spent around him, and talked to him off the ice, but also watched him on the ice, he's very much that kind of player that gets the most out of the guys around him, and he makes the guys around him better. So that's why I said, this, they picked their future captain with this pick, because it's not just about, oh, he's a great locker room guy. He is, and he fit in very well. He was very confident, very comfortable in that setting. And again, he's not going to be the flashy James Higgins type, with the super high-end skill, but he gets it done. Like, he gets it done very well. He's not going to be making any crazy behind the back, between the legs stuff, but I mean, he's going to drive play, he's going to drive offense, he's going to get the puck up the ice, and that's what you want him to do. So I think that the more time I spend around him, I get it. Like, I understand why this was the pick for what the Predators need from him.
And based off press conferences, and the press conference that Reed and Lee had, where it felt like very young people being kind of thrust into a new situation. I thought, like, Brady Martin has the like hockey answer down pat, where like every hockey guy every question I've ever asked in person, it's always starts with yeah. Like for every yeah. Like they affirm the question, and then they like give a quick little like it's kind of been a whirlwind, and Riker's really sick. Yeah. I was like, oh man, he's already got like the machinations of how to answer questions kind of like already down. I thought he was pretty well spoken for an 18-year-old or whatever he is, and was pretty honest and gave a little bit of insight, but not too much. Like, I think that's the right, you got to learn how to do that in this game. But I thought all the best players, like from what I've seen, all the best players did the things you kind of want them to do in this situation this week. Somebody did ask, let's see here. Is it Lop? Lop says, Surin looked like a man amongst boys. Martin looked fine, drove play for his line, nothing flashy. Logan says, what do you think of Molendyk playing on the right side all exhibition? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm not surprised that we saw that. We talked to him about that, and he said that actually his first few years in junior in where was he? Saskatoon. He actually played on the right side consistently. So that's something that I imagine the Predators are gonna want to, develop him kind of in a Roman Yossi-esque way, that you can play either side. Like, you have a dominant side, and that's fine. But
Sure.
I mean, certainly if that option's available and it doesn't feel like you're trying to put a square peg in a round hole, then obviously you want to explore that.
Some comments here about Riker Lee and Cole O'Hara. You did mention the between the legs flashiness. That was the Cole O'Hara goal, of course, where he gets the breakaway,
Yes.
and then scores with the flashiness there. I look, if I told you who are the best 4 players and you didn't know anything about the prospect rankings, I said, who are the best 3 or 4 players at development camp? If you told me they were Matthew Wood, Brady Martin, Tanner Molendyk, and Andrew Gibson, or Surin's in there too, I think that is absolutely the best possible thing that could have happened this week, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would say, O'Hara looked good as well. But yeah, it was really, to me, the ones that just on straight eye test, the ones who stood out to me the most: Molendyk, Gibson, Surin, and Wood, probably.
Brady Martin better be short next on the list.
He is. I mean,
Because I agree with you that everybody overswung on their disappointment with the pick.
right.
I always thought that he was a really good pick. I understood why they were doing it. Again, I'd like to think that I was first on this, that he was their guy from the beginning. But it wasn't. They're not. They're not drafting their third line center with that pick. Like that was not what they're drafting him to be. So
no, but it's also I try to be a little bit. What's also like not totally a fair comparison is the fact that this is his first development camp. All the other guys I mentioned have done this before. Wood's been doing it for, he's a seasoned vet at this point. So I was struck by how like old Matthew Wood looked next to all of these other guys. Not like he looks older than his age, but I mean, it's just like, oh, it's a man with all of these little boys in the locker room. It was
it's
just
almost as if he's played in the NHL before.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah, which is again very positive development for the Nashville Predators. So I thought the camp accomplished what they needed to accomplish. I do want to get to you. Let's talk about sort of how all these pieces fit into the training camp battles that are set to come. It's never too early to talk about training camp battles, and obviously, reminder, of course, we are brought to you by Sinkers Beverages and Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. Go support those two great local businesses. The only free parking and a mechanical bull at Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. Okay, so go check them out. And obviously, Sinkers, buy those tickets. Basement East birthday party coming up, 40th birthday party coming up, first weekend in August, or second weekend in August, I believe, August 9th on a Saturday. So come on out. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have a blast. It's going to be super cool. And you got a chance to win a bunch of free stuff. So, and it's for charity. Like, what else do you need to know? So we did a lot of like sort of current. Gover and I did a lot of like, here's what the roster and starting lineup could look like today, this year, coming out of camp. And then, hey, here's what it could look like 2 or 3 years down the road. I don't want to rehash all of that. But I do want to get your thoughts we'll start with the guys at development camp. And you can start with Brady Martin. And that is, do you think he should get the 9-game, the entry-level contract sort of tester run there? I think you absolutely should, if nothing else, to sell tickets and get people excited about the future. Give him an opportunity, see how much he can learn. And like, to me, there's like a 5% chance he wins a starting spot or, is even one of the top 14 or 15 forwards on the team. I think it's a very low percentage chance, but I think it's a really good opportunity to give him a taste, see how he does, and have that in the back of his head and make it exciting for the fans. 18 years old, 5th overall pick, playing on opening night. That is a sellable commodity. This is entertainment that they're doing here.
Yeah, I mean, none of that is incorrect. My only sort of like, I don't know, just to play devil's advocate, I will say the issue.
My favorite Emma Lingan.
The potential issue with that is we've talked about how important it is for this team. This team needs to get off to a strong start this year. And I'm just saying, if you have a guy making a test run in the first however many games, and that leads to some mistakes and a lack of consistency and things like that, then that could, I'm not saying that single-handedly Brady Martin is going to bring this team down, but I'm just saying that like it could contribute to the fact that this team might get off to another slow start, and then imagine the panic that will ensue if that happens, because we saw what happened last year. It was a slow start that lasted for 82 games. So
devil's advocate to your devil's advocate. If hypothetically Brady Martin, because I don't disagree with your premise that if Brady Martin, and I'm going to add some other names here because I think this is what makes it really interesting. If Brady Martin, Tanner Molendyk, Matthew Wood, and fill in the blank, whether it's Ozzy Weisblatt or Joachim Kemmel, who pick a name that also is close and not quite there yet. If they have 3, now there's not a lot of spots for these guys, but hypothetically, if there are 3 or 4 of those guys playing in the first 5 or 8 games, and they are losing games because they're just not good enough, but all of those guys are playing prominent roles, I think you're selling the future to people, and people will be just as excited about those groups of players being quote, and I'm not saying do it for the sake of selling tickets. I'm saying do it because they're ready. If they're ready to play, and it's going to cost you some games, but they're ready, I think you can sell that to the fans. No?
Maybe, but can you sell that to Andrew Burnett? because he doesn't like to play young kids. And that's something that he and Barry Trotz are really going to have to find a common ground on this year.
Why is he the head coach then?
That's what I'm saying. This is going to be very important because everything that Barry Trotz has said, I think the fans can get on board with. Now you need your coaching staff to get on board with it and put the words into action. And so I think that that's going to be a big thing. And, of course, Barry Trotz talked about, Andrew Burnett's a young coach. He's like a young player. You got to work with him and all of that. So I want to give him the chance to do that, but you got to see some significant improvement in that aspect.
So would you want Martin? I mean, you can't really say, hey, I saw enough in development camp to say he should earn the spot. It's almost more of an entertainment, like messaging sort of storyline play if you play him for the 8 or 9 games and then send him back to juniors because he has to go back to juniors. He can't go to the AHL, and that puts him there permanently, right, for the next however many years until he gets to 20 on January. It's all the crazy rules about the age limitations that the NHL has the agreement with all these junior leagues in Canada. I think there are 2 lineups. I think there's a lineup. There's like a Brady Martin lineup. Then there's like a non-Brady Martin lineup coming out of camp. And then I think there's a trade deadline camp lineup. And Logan already said this. Would you wait till the trade closer to the trade deadline to see if you can sell off McCarron or Holla? My assumption is that Bunting, McCarron, and Holla are gone at the deadline in some way, shape, or form. And the reason you do that is to make room for whoever is ready to come up and play. On defense, all bets are off because while your top 4 is relatively set, in my opinion, with Perbix, Haig, Yossi, and Shea, I don't know if they're going to play in the top 4, but those are your 4 highest paid players. There's like 9 dudes for 2 spots on defense. So I think Molendyk has more of a chance to make it than maybe some of these other guys. But there is a spot or 2 available for a Weisblatt or a Joachim Kemmel or somebody like that to earn their spot. So anybody else in development camp, maybe Matthew Wood, maybe Molendyk, that you think should get a pretty long look in training camp?
Yeah, I mean, just Wood, Molendyk, and Gibson. Maybe throw O'Hara in there too.
2022 4th-round pick, I think.
Yeah, out of UMass. So I think that, again, long look. Not saying that means they make the roster, but they should get a longer look.
Yeah. All right. What does your starting lineup look like? You want to start on defense? You want to start there?
Sure.
Do you have any ideas about how to organize the starting lineup coming out of training camp?
Yeah, I mean, if the season started tomorrow, I would say it's Haig and Yossi. So Yossi playing on the right. Shea and Perbix. And then I'm going to go Willsby Barron on the third pair.
Okay.
Like you said, there's like 9 different dudes competing for spots there. But I'm just if I'm imagining what I think will happen, that's where I'm going.
I actually don't disagree. I could see Perbix playing with Yossi potentially. Then you have an extra. You got to find another right-hander in there somewhere. I could see Molendyk making the third pairing as a right-hander potentially. I do think Wilsby is the best of that crowded group of like the same player.
I mean,
Blankenberg, Osterley, England, like all those guys. I think Wilsby's the highest. I think Wilsby's the highest viewed.
I keep forgetting that Osterley exists because they also have, and they have England too. So it's like I had been thinking, okay, England is going to be your 7th defenseman, but now it's like, well, maybe Osterley's the 7th defenseman, which I think is a perfectly fine role for him. And then I don't even know. Yeah, I completely forgot about him. It doesn't help that he's like one of the most generic looking human beings in the world. Like sometimes he would walk out of the locker room and I'm like, who is that generic bearded white man? It's
very Novakian of him.
Yeah.
It's hard to find a way to put the lineup together without Yossi on the right.
Yeah.
It's hard. Now, could you play Haig on the third pairing? maybe.
You
That's a lot of money.
shouldn't.
I don't think the Predators view him as that. I think the fans reacted that way when they saw the deal, and they were like, "Oh, I can't believe you paid 5.5 for a third." Like, no, they're paying him $22 million to be a top 4 defenseman. Just
Yes.
full stop.
A lot of the time too with, I would say, Haig and also Perbix, remember, just because they played a certain role with their previous team doesn't mean that they're going to play that same role with the Predators, because it has to
Right.
do with the other defensemen who are in front of them. Like in Vegas or in Tampa, when you've got Alex Pietrangelo and Shea Theodore or Victor Hedman ahead of you, of course you're going to play on the third pairing. Like that's, so it's just because they were underutilized where they were before. Hell, that's why they, in Perbix's case, chose free agency so he could go somewhere else.
I don't think this makes as much sense. I don't think Shea Yossi makes as much sense. I think you need sort of a burly, lockdown, physical back end guy,
And
which is
that's
why,
Haig.
which is why I think they're probably going to start. I just don't know if he's a top line blue liner, but like I could see Yossi Perbix because that is a nice combination, right? The stay at home guy on the right, but keep Yossi on the left. I think you then have to figure out who plays on the right side, which is in that case probably Barron. And then I guess I don't know if what Willsby can do, but like I do think Willsby is one of your 6 best defensemen. If
I
you're looking at
mean,
if you're looking at the 12 dudes, I think he is one of the 6 best. I think.
yeah, but then your combination would be Shea Barron, and I really don't like that because they're too similar.
He's
I
another one, by the way. I want them to trade at the deadline. Like if I don't know if you can,
Oh
but like
God. Yeah, please trade him for a bucket of pucks. I don't care.
oh,
I think look, I'm not listen,
rude.
I dumped on Luke Shen long enough and then he became good for a minute. So,
That this is
maybe
your strategy after all. All right, okay.
maybe. Yeah, I understand the value that Barron brings. I understand that he's not an offensive defenseman. He's just offensive, and that's it.
So what's weird is I could see him with like a Haig on the third pairing because again, I'm not saying that's where he's going to be, but
Right.
you have the big stay at home guy who's going to be physical and burly, and then you've got Barron who largely is irrelevant on defense despite playing the position of defense, and then he likes to jump up and occasionally looks like an attacking player on at times, but I agree.
Hey, can he play center? Let's try it.
Look,
Like,
look, I think I don't think it's going to happen much sooner than the deadline, but there is a list of 4 or 5 guys that could all move, including Ryan O'Reilly, that could all move at the deadline. And if the club is sort of middling, the right strategy is to acquire even more assets and bring up the young kids, which you and I did a show about this timeline, and we've already talked about this, but Barry Trotz said the thing that we think is the right plan, which is play the young forwards and fix the defense. And that's their strategy right now. And that is what they are trying to do. And when you look at the starting lineup, and we can switch to offense now, and we'll get to your question, Chris, in just a second. But if we switch to offense, there's just not a lot of slots currently available. Like Forsberg, Marchessault, Stamkos, Evangelista, Ryan O'Reilly, Svechkov, Bunting, Holla. Like that's your top. What did I just say? That's 8 guys. That's your top 8. You know that LaRue, McCarron, and Cole Smith are going to take up 3 spots, probably. You got one more. That's it. So maybe that's Brady Martin for a couple games. Maybe that's Joachim Kemmel. Maybe that's Ozzy Weisblatt. Maybe that's you need at least one of the young kids to come up and play. Otherwise, that strategy is not what you're doing. You're playing Eric Holla, which again, no offense to Eric Holla, but he's not the young future of the organization.
yeah. No, I think for that one spot, like if we're going with who I think could occupy that one spot right now, and I would feel relatively comfortable, that would be either Weisblatt or Wood, in my opinion. But as far as who, like, there are certain guys like Kemmel, for example, who when he came up for a minute last season, he was not ready. It was very clear he was not ready. That said, you need him to look more ready this year. If he gets called up again and he doesn't, he doesn't look considerably better than he did the last time, then that's concerning to me. So he is one that, based on performance last season, no, I would not say that he has earned that spot, but he's kind of the guy that you need him to earn that spot. So
I think you have. I think right now, again, barring and Chris asked, do either of us think that Trotz is going to offer sheet anybody, Byram or Rossi? Sorry if we've already talked about this. Rossi's an interesting one because he does sort of solve some of your center problem at the top of the lineup. It makes Ryan O'Reilly not have to carry it so much, and you're not asking Svechkov to do too much, which, again, I don't have a problem with because the whole point of the season is to allow these young guys to develop. Right now, it's Forsberg.
I was also just going to add quickly that Byram can't be offer sheeted right now because the Sabres filed for arbitration to take that option off the table. So,
I mean, I would have no problem with an offer sheet for Rossi, but that's,
nor would I. Nor
yeah.
would I. Byram, I would. He's got a complicated injury history. But yeah, anyway, that's moot now because the whole reason that the player didn't file for arbitration was because he wanted to keep the offer sheet option open. Then the team filed for arbitration to take that option away. So
I do think Forsberg, Stamkos, Ryan O'Reilly, Svechkov, and then I don't know who, Marchessault and Evangelista. Like that is your top six. I'm curious if we stick with what we've seen in kind of traditional thinking here, which is Forsberg and O'Reilly left and center, Stamkos and Svechkov left and center. Which one is better suited? Is it Marchessault on the top line? Is it Evangelista with a little bit more of his, like distribution, like taking some of the distribution off of Svechkov's plate, or do you want to put Evangelista on the top line and sort of allow a more proven veteran commodity to kind of to bracket Svechkov? So you've got Stamkos and Marchessault kind of bracketing a younger player and kind of bringing him along. I don't know if you have an opinion on which one you like better on the top, or I kind of like Evangelista on the top line. And I like Marchessault on the second line, I think, because that's limiting your two, I don't want to call weakest elements, but like if Svechkov and Evangelista are the two that are sort of at their quote-unquote weakest of those top six, you want to prop them up with veterans and good quality around them. I think you're doing that. Evangelista is going to have a lot of room to operate with Forsberg and O'Reilly on the same line with them. So Svechkov should have more room to operate with Stamkos and Marchessault taking attention away. So that's my thinking, but I don't know where you're at on that.
I understand the premise of that, but I also, like, at the same time, kind of based on what we were talking about earlier with the defense, now applying that same idea to the offense would be like if Evangelista and Svechkov are going to be part of this next core, this next group, then you want them playing together more. Also with Evangelista specifically, I think and again, we've seen this now multiple times over his multiple seasons in the NHL. He does better in a top six role when he's given consistent minutes and he is paired alongside more skilled line mates. He does better. We have proof of that. So for the love, please stop putting him in a bottom six role.
I don't think that, other than Bunting, I don't think they have a choice. I think they have to play him on the top six.
I really like the idea of a second line of Stamkos. No, I gotta think of this in my head. Stamkos, Svechkov, Evangelista is a very intriguing second line to me. That way you have Marchessault. I know you just said you want Marchessault on the second line. No, I would put him. I would still do Forsberg, O'Reilly, Marchessault on the top line.
And I'll be very honestly, Marchessault is more of a first line winger than Evangelista is. Like that's just skill, talent, experience. Like no argument there.
Yes. So then it would be Stamkos, Svechkov, Evangelista. Third pairing, I would go Bunting, Holla, and
that's the fill in the blank guy. It's either LaRue or fill in the blank with an up and comer, Weisblatt or Wood or somebody.
I would put LaRue. I would put LaRue on that line. And then, but see, that depends on who the fill in the blank guy is. If the fill in the blank guy is Weisblatt, put him on the fourth line. But if it's Kemmel, don't do that. So I
Same with
like
Wood. Same with if it's Wood, he
right.
needs to be up a little bit more of an offensive position for sure.
Yes, yes. So that's there's a caveat to it, but I think that generally that's what I would like to see. I think I'm still not
I
a
think it's going to be Weisblatt, honestly. Of the group who makes the team, I think if you're asking me, Wood, Kemmel, Weisblatt, I don't know who else is in that group who I might be missing. But if you're
I
telling me,
liked Weisblatt
I
a
think it's
lot.
Weisblatt.
I thought he looked really good last year, and that it fits more with with everything else we said, that like you put him on the fourth line with Smith and McCarron, and that's your shutdown line right there. But he can also agitate, and he's got a little, he can
Offensive juice.
score too. Yeah, and then you put LaRue on the third line. I don't want to see LaRue get buried on the fourth line again. Plus,
It's funny you say that because I think you're never going to give him a chance to develop the offensive skill that he probably does have. I don't think he's a
he
30
does
goal
have
guy.
it.
He's not a 30 goal
No,
guy, but like you could get Colton Sissons, Callie Yarncroke type production out of him.
for
15
sure.
goals, 20 assists. Like you could do that, but you just got
And
to have an opportunity.
we've seen the Predators do this to guys before. And I think partly, honestly, that could be why a lot of fans immediately swung too far in their evaluation of Brady Martin. Because it's not Brady Martin's fault. It's because the Predators do this. They take a guy who has that offensive juice and they put him in a bottom six role and they turn him into a grinder. And that's just all he is now. Now, Zach LaRue, it's a good thing, and because a lot of guys can't adapt, they can't adjust their style of play. And if it's like, if I can't score goals, then what am I doing? Zach LaRue, it's very good that he can adapt his play and he can lean more into that physical side. That's great, but you're not getting the most out of him. I personally think a line of Holla with Bunting and LaRue would be really fun to watch.
They would mess some shit up.
They would. It would be fun.
And I do think what's interesting about Bunting is he does give you a lot of versatility. You could play
Yeah.
him as a top line winger to put him in front of the net. The problem is if O'Reilly's your top line, you don't need Bunting because O'Reilly was going to go stand in front of the
Right.
net. So
Right.
you could if you had Rossi, let's just go crazy here for a second. If O'Reilly gets traded, but you have Rossi and Rossi's your number one center, that's where you want Bunting because you want to put Bunting in front of the net. So they've got some. He's a flexible piece. Holla could play the wing too if you need him to, and Martin makes the roster. Let's say those first 9 games could be Martin centering Bunting and Holla, right? And then he's gone, and then Holla moves over, and then you bring up Weisblatt or Kemmel or Wood because they get a little bit longer to be ready, maybe 9 or 10 games. They come up. So there's some flexibility there. But I think that the roster in February, March, and April the starting lineup should look pretty different. I would hope because, again, McCarron, Bunting, Holla, Barron, at minimum, those 4 are at the end of their contracts and should be traded. Because, again, like this team is not winning a cup. I'm not trying to be rude here, but they're not winning a cup. So get rid of the pieces that can help you build in the future and create space for your younger players to come on up. I'm okay with it in the beginning. And somebody asked, I think it was Josh, said, "Hey, would you trust a young player, to if you need to win early to save your job?" And I do think there is a conflict and a natural tension here between Andrew Brunette trying to save his job and Barry Trotz saying out loud, "We need the young forwards to play." There is a tension there between those two things.
Yeah, I think it's hard, Barry Trotz doesn't want this to be, I mean, this isn't a rebuilding team, and whatever, people are going to come at me for saying that, but it's not. I mean, it's not a Chicago, it's not a complete like a San Jose, it's not a complete scrap and let's be bad for 5 years before we can be good again. Like that's just not how this team is built. So and people have a lot of opinions about whether or not they should be a San Jose or a Chicago, but that's neither here nor there at this point. Like you have the pieces you have. So I understand the tension. I do understand that natural, they're fighting against each other, those two ideas with like the, like Brunette wanting to win and, logic tells you, oh, you go with the more experienced players if you want to win, and winning is going to help me save my
Yeah,
job.
yeah,
But at the same time, it's you got to look beyond that. And
yeah.
I don't mean to imply that Brunette doesn't understand that conceptually. Of course he does, but I think that it's a challenging inner battle, I think, that he's fighting.
Well, I think there's a lot of options on defense. I think there's fewer options on offense, but I think the future is there. There's some openings that are coming, and honestly, like I'm not optimistic about elite hockey and like high level successful winning playoff hockey, but I think fans should be excited about the possibilities of what could come. Now, the worst possibility, and this is where everyone's like doom and gloom and want to, this is like end of the world stuff, which is a terrible start with a bunch of veterans. The young players come up and aren't any good either. Like that's now, I think some of that is you have to be patient with the young players and know that they're going to make a bunch of mistakes, and so they may not look great right now, but that they're learning to get better down the road. So it's a hard situation to like. I don't envy the entire power structure inside the coaching staff and the organization to try to make this threading this needle, which I think is a phrase Barry Trotz has used, threading the needle between maintaining the future assets and the prospects and the draft picks without giving anything up and trying to actually put veterans on the ice to win. That's a really hard needle to thread. It just is. It doesn't happen like that in any sport, NHL included. Generally, you got to pick one path and go down it and stop zigzagging, back and forth between the two, like you're trying to outrun an alligator. Okay, Emma, anything else you want to add? What are you working on these days? Go to Sinkers Beverages. Go to Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. Hockey news. Go check it out.
Yeah. I'm covering the league at large now for the hockey news. So got a show. If you want to hear about what's going on outside of Nashville in the NHL, can go check it out on the hockey news.
Emma's your girl. There you go. All right, everybody. Sinkers Beverages. Tickets available. BasementEast.com for their birthday party coming up in August. Lower Broad Hockey. Please sign up there for all your extended Preds coverage. Nick Keyser writing some stuff over there as well. Adam and I do a show. We're going to have more stuff for you, working on some video analysis and working on some stuff. Hopefully the Preds can give us some access to some guys. So we're doing all that on the new draft picks and the prospects. So we'll do some of that, some goaltender stuff as well. So stay tuned. Please go subscribe, support good local journalism and good local businesses as well. We do appreciate it. Chris, I'm wrapping up the show here, Chris. I can't throw another question in as well. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to try here. I'll see if I can do it. Should our expectations as fans be fourth in the division and selling at the deadline? I'd love to hear Marshall Show give his take on all of this now that free agency is over. I think fourth in the division and selling at the deadline is fine. I don't have a problem with that. I think that's best case scenario
be better than where you were last year.
Well, but then you're not getting Gavin McKenna. So there you go. Chris, thank you for listening. Thanks to all of you guys, to Jeff and to Kevin and to Nate and to Josh and to Logan and to Lop, very active in the comments today. I do appreciate you as well. So all of you guys, thank you for listening. Thank you for hanging out. Eddie as well, Brad, Trevor, all you guys. So thank you. We do appreciate it. For Emma, I am Braden. Thank you for listening. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.